Here we are. Hey, everybody. Welcome to another edition of 20Q, 20 Questions with Interesting People. I am your host, Tim Kirk, and we find out about the origin stories of everyday superheroes in the LGBT community and friends. Our guest this time is Hugo Ramirez Wright. Hugo is a raconteur, bon vivant man about town. He is a well-known photographer and a budding beer sommelier. Hi, Hugo.
Hey, how we doing, Tim?
Good. How's it going today?
Good. You know.
Cool. So we're going to jump right in. Start with the first question. A bit about your background. Where are you originally from, and what was it like?
So I grew up in Diamond Bar, California. It's just outside of LA County, and I'm the son of immigrants. I'm first generation American, and both of my parents immigrated from Colombia when they were around 25. So yeah, I mean, California kid living the dream in New York City.
Wow, you're the second one of our guests whose parents are both from Colombia. And he's a first generation. So that's kind of interesting. Anything else you'd like to tell about your background?
Both my parents they went to university in Colombia, but they had to start over when they came to the United States. So they took night classes, going to learn English while trying to make it in a engineering career and trying to find their way in the States, raising some kids and, making their way.
That sounds really surprisingly similar. Consistent stories. So many people have consistent stories. All right, so I'm going to jump right into question number 2. Which life experience had the greatest impact on you?
Man, that's a crazy question because every choice we make every day could, shape the rest of your life, and just the smallest experience really kind of changes how you see the rest of your life. I would say it's moving to New York City.
All right.
I thought I'd never leave California or San Francisco, and I was there for 10 years, so moving to New York City was definitely the experience that had the most impact in my life. Now I'm married and got a wife, so helped me grow up a little.
Very good. And the third question, we're going along smashingly right here. The third question is something that people have to disassemble, I think, for the most part. What would you say to anyone interested in an aspect of your experience? Meaning, if someone wanted to explore or pursue an opportunity or prospective opportunity based on what you can tell them, what would be the main thing to encourage, discourage them? I have friends of musicians, somebody who was thinking about going into aviation, someone else who went into finance and they got his MBA, and what was the thing that you could tell people from your unique perspective that you would either encourage or discourage them if they want to follow you?
I feel like so I travel a lot. At least once or twice a year we go to like parts of known, roads less traveled, and before making any big decision in my life, I always try to set time apart. Going to, somewhere foreign where nothing or no one really teaches you a lot about yourself and how a person can grow and kind of, learn about themselves while trying to figure out life decisions or making life goals or making, decisions that are life impacting. You got to find out what you're made of, or see what the world has to offer. And when you come back, you have just a different, fresh perspective of what, you take and you learn from them and you apply it in your daily life. And hopefully it'll help you make decisions that help shape you.
Well, that's interesting. Doug Touche, who we interviewed yesterday, said almost the same thing He loves to travel. He's going to love to travel. You think it's helped him broaden his experience and open his eyes up and change his perspective. And I've had people, DG Martinet talked about going to Italy, and Garrett Vorbeck has traveled a lot himself. And other people who all have said travel is a great eye-opening experience to change your perspective. So you're in good company. Mm-hmm. So going on to question 4. What would you say is your most noteworthy achievement?
I would say, feeling like I've made it in New York City. I mean, a lot of people come here and try to find their way. And I know I mentioned this earlier, but like I said, I thought I come from like a small suburb town in Southern California, and you always hear about the big cities and the life and how much they have to offer and how hard it is to make it. But when I first came to New York, I didn't think I was going to make it. I had like a month and a half, 2 months where I couldn't find a job. I was applying to deliver pizzas. I just needed to pay rent. And now I run a lovely Belgian cafe down the street. I have my photography business. I travel the world. I mentioned I just got married, and I feel like success, while that's an achievement, I feel accomplished inside and fulfilled.
I think that's a really good thing to strive for. Now, following up on that, what was the biggest personal challenge you have faced? Was it a personal injury, seemingly overwhelming task, a personal or professional goal, a difficult situation you had to come? What was the biggest challenge you had faced?
I mean, being first generation, growing up in Southern California, where there's a lot of kids that you go to school with that are Latino and from Latino countries, and we only spoke Spanish at the house. So
really,
I was never brown enough for the brown kids and never white enough for the white kids, and so I find myself somewhere in the middle always.
Really?
And so, yeah, I mean, when I went to kindergarten or preschool, they basically had to reteach me the alphabet because I knew it all in Spanish. And so that I had to stay extra time after to learn phonetics, and so my whole life my grammar isn't so nice because of the conjugation in my head and all these things, but just social aspects of, in Colombian culture, you hang out with your family and your family friends all the time, and those are your friends. And so breaking into the community of Southern California, Orange County, it was hard.
That's a big challenge. So what drives you? What gets you up in the morning? What's the thing that makes you want to get up and do something and be alive?
I guess the answer to that would be evolving. I believe if you don't try to change at least the smallest thing in your life, day after day, you're just the same as you were the day before. And so you get up early to learn a task or a hobby or advance yourself and evolve slowly. I mean, it could be one thing. It could be reading the newspaper every day. This week I'm going to read the newspaper every day when I get up for 10 minutes. And, learning is important because otherwise you're just getting up doing the same thing you did the day before.
Interesting. That a lot of consistency with that with other people. People see opportunity and learning have been a consistent responses to this question.
Huh.
It's interesting. Okay, so now we're going to move on to, this is a pretty personal question. What's the first thing you want to come to people's minds when they think of you?
I would say confidant or trustworthy. Those are maybe somewhere in the middle of those two words. Not that I'm a secretive person or I have something to hide, but I believe like trust is something like someone's word. It's not the same as it used to be. Like if I tell you I'm going to be somewhere at like 2:00, I'll be here at 1:30. Or like I feel like it's important to relay, a sense of trust in other people. If someone trusts you, it's more important than if they like you.
Yeah, you have to live up to that.
To me. Right. And so like it's on me just as much as it's on the other individual. But yeah, I like to feel like people can rely on me.
Okay, so you in other words, also people put a lot of faith in you.
Faith in me, I guess.
Yeah, if they're trusting you, they're relying. They know you're going to be someone they can rely on. They're putting their faith in you. So that's pretty cool. Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, the other question that everybody has a different interpretation of. What is your Zen?
What is my Zen?
What do you think that means?
It's the place you go that brings you balance. In San Francisco, I lived there for 10 years and I was a bike messenger for a little bit. But other than riding my bike for work, I would commute, I would ride it to school, to going out, wherever I was going. And every night I lived on the outskirts of the city, so you'd have to bike through Golden Gate Park at like odd hours of night, and there's no one, and there's no sound, and there's no cars, and there's no people, and it's just the sound of the chain and the crank. And yeah, that was the place I would go, and I would ride it midnight, 2 a.m., 5 a.m., in the middle of the day. And I did it so many times that even in the middle of the day, when there was cars and bikes and people, it would still take me back to riding it as if it was 1 a.m. and there was no one. And just the sound of the crank. Clack, 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 clack. So yeah. And so even today, like I don't bike as much as I used to, but every time I get on my bike, I always go back to that place.
Very cool. And I understand that that's very similar to my experiences. And I think the rest of the world just melts away. It's what gives you that place you're just chill, and you're not thinking about things that stress you out. It's completely chill. Well, that's interesting. That's great. That's a really cool answer too, by the way. Thanks. Okay, so now this is the one thing that everybody has a very different interpretation of too. I'm surprised, and some people really want to qualify it, or they want to think about it a little bit. But the threshold. We've all crossed the threshold, and that's the point of this. At one point in your life, there's no going back once you cross that threshold. And we all have had that. We've all hit that at a certain point of our life. How did you know when you arrived there? How did it feel to cross it? What was the significance to you? And what did you leave behind? What are you glad you left behind? And what do you regret leaving behind?
So I've played sports my entire life. Sports taught me a lot about, hard work, perseverance, teamwork, surviving. But when I went to college, I decided to join the rugby team with my college roommate, and we go out to the first or second day of practice, and I've never played something like this, and someone passes me the ball, and I literally just get run over. Just completely, I didn't see the guy, and I just like was destroyed. And then I get up.
Okay.
And then something kind of comes over me where I feel like my heart started racing, and I say to myself, wow, like I'm okay. I didn't die or get hurt, or like I'm not made out of glass. And a couple minutes later, I get the ball again, and the same guy that runs me over, I run right over the guy with the ball. And,
really?
And something comes over me again saying like, okay, like, you know, leaving caution and being cautious, so rugby was my threshold. And after falling in love with the sport, eventually like captaining it for my university, I realized like to be cautious, you know, that's just to be unsure, and like you're not made out of glass, and you can take risks, and you can push yourself to extremes where you think your body can't go, but it's a state of mind. And so what I left behind was my caution in life. My threshold was rugby. After I crossed it, I saw like other things in my life differently as well. And so I was able to take risk and not be cautious and like really, really live life basically. And I don't regret leaving anything behind, because without risk, there's no reward, you know?
I think that's a really interesting take on that question. Everybody has a different interpretation of that, but that's a really clear example. So now we get to the 10 questions that you're selecting to respond to. Which one would you like to answer first?
What do you want to be better at?
Okay, what would you like to be better at?
I mean, everything, right? Isn't that idea? That you want to be better at everything. I would say empathy.
Okay.
I'm in the service industry, but I need to empathize more with customers, my staff, distributors, and not necessarily being, you know, so stern on decisions, and listening, you know, to not what someone is saying, but what someone means.
So you just think that's a pretty big challenge, considering how much you may get worn down by people's emotion or hearing the same story frequently. Mm-hmm. And you might get a little hardened or inured to it because it's almost, you just hear it so frequently that it doesn't have the impact that it did, and that takes a lot of effort to remain empathetic.
Right.
So I think that's something that's a big challenge in your life.
Something to strive towards, you know.
Very interesting. Okay, so now the next question kind of follows up on that. What is your first goal when interacting with strangers?
I would say I'm not really even interested in what they do for a profession, or not even necessarily what their name is, but breaking them down to the human barrier, where regardless if you're a lawyer, he's a doctor, she's a garbage man, he's a teacher, I run a bar, we're all here for the same reason, you know? And so like the human connection and breaking someone down to the point where they don't even think about like elitism or classism, or he's got $100,000 in his pocket, he's got $5 in his pocket. But like speaking human with them.
Yeah, making a human connection.
Yeah, and so my first goal with interacting with a stranger is to break them down and to like disengage them from their own life and webs and all of these things that keep your mind in like this container where it makes you think and act a certain way and even talk a certain way. But if we're all the same, you know, it's the differences, it's the details that make us different, you know.
Some people live in what they call like sandcastles in the sky. They make these fancy things that don't exist outside of their own imagination. And if you can get them to burst or break those bonds and just relate to you, person to person, that's a pretty difficult task, I must say. So, what would you say if about having a checklist you routinely follow? If so, do you have one? And if you do, in what context? Business meeting, prep, chores, appearance?
So, as I mentioned earlier, I'm very punctual, and I get up early and prep my day because I know without the prep in my day, I wouldn't be able to be punctual, or there's a lot of things. There's a lot of things that I could, you know, do or say, or get distracted, or someone calls me here, or the doorbell rings, or my mom calls, or my wife walks in, or she gets homesick. In the morning, I prep my whole day. I lay out everything I would possibly ever need for the day on the table. I pack half of it in my bag. I make sure I don't need the rest for the day, and I walk out the door. Even if I'm going to 4 addresses, 5 addresses, just to work, just to a friend's house, I even take a backpack to the bar, just in case we go do this after this, or this after that. And the over prepared is not the over cautious, but just over prepared. And so why be underprepared because you didn't think about it? You didn't have time, you know?
Yeah. Everybody has either the watch, wallet, comb, keys, you know, thing. I'm one big on checklists. Someone else I interviewed says it's terrible memory. So he makes checklists all the time. And it's a pretty strong and consistent thing about people who like to get stuff done is checklists. So, and you obviously like to get stuff done. What is your most treasured possession?
I mean, first thing that comes to mind, I mean, when you say possession are things, right? Not necessarily people.
However you want to look at it.
So, I would say my camera. Definitely my camera. If my house was burning down and there was no one inside my house, I would definitely grab my camera before I would grab anything else.
There you go.
To take pictures of the house burning down.
My friend Garrett, he was telling me his most treasured possession is he has a horseshoe. And he says it's the first thing he puts up whenever he moves in any place, and it's the last thing he takes out.
That's cool.
And to keep the avatar and to keep it going all the time, he has a horseshoe tattooed on his right bicep.
Oh, that's
so he's
cool.
always got one. And the funny thing is, when I showed him that bracelet that Bruce gave me, the copper horseshoe nail, he said, the horseshoe nail. He said, what do you know?
That's so funny.
Yeah, so that's so funny. That's something that you like. My other friend said he can't live without music. Someone else said the phone, because this is he lives on his phone. You know, it's like that's how much the one thing you want, you won't let go of. You know.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so question number 15. Go for money or happiness. Go for money or money or B, happiness. A lot of people have chosen this question as well. A, money, B, happiness. What's the thing? What do you think?
I would go for C, somewhere in between. For sure.
Really?
No, I mean, so what's the saying? What's the phrase? Money can't buy happiness, but can buy a house.
David Lee Roth always said, money can't buy happiness, but it can buy a boat big enough to pull up right next to it.
Yeah. Yes. I mean, it depends who you are. For me, you know, I was the type of kid who, I mean, didn't need much, like a rolled up piece of paper to kick around, or a real soccer ball, or, you know, the dream when I was a kid was to just open up, you know, like a little cafe bar on the beach, sleep in the back of the place. That sounds pretty happy to me.
Yes, that's more happiness than money.
And so, like, yeah, and so, you know, less is more. And so with money, you think the more you have is the happier you are. But to me, happiness, you know, wisdom is more important than silver and gold.
Okay. The question is, ideally, would you rather be an authority figure or someone with a great sense of humor? And what does that mean to you?
Ideally, I want to be both. I want to be someone that commands respect, but that doesn't take themselves too serious. And if you're someone that commands respect and take yourself too seriously, you will lose respect just as fast as you gain it. And so, being human, you have to have a little of both. You can't just be the funny guy that no one takes serious. You can't be the serious guy that no one can even, that everyone's holding their breath around because they're worried, you know?
There you go.
Yeah, somewhere in the middle. I mean, my favorite color is gray, if you haven't noticed. But yeah, I think, you know, to be human is to be empathetic, something I'm trying to be better at. And as an authority figure who commands respect at his job, you have to have both, or else no one's going to enjoy the human element of working with you. You know?
Okay, very good. I think that's a great answer. Okay, so now we're at what, 17?
17. What is your quest?
Yeah, what is your quest?
The thing you must do at one point in your life above all else. My quest. I like the idea that I like photography because, alright, I'm gonna backtrack right here. Traveling. I like to travel because to parts unknown, to see people and places and things that others might not ever see, and to share these experiences with them and show them what the world is really like, you know?
So to travel and document it through your particular point of view, because you have an extraordinarily distinct and artful style in photography. So you're also everything, all the pictures, I say they're not just a photograph. You're actually telling a story. Virtually every picture that I've seen you've produced is a whole lot more than just the elements.
Yeah, and I mean, I think it's important to, why this, like, take your hobbies and try to correctly understand why you chose this hobby or this, frame of mind or expression. And once you kind of answer that, you'll be able to focus on how to take a photograph that means something to you. And if it means something to you, other people who look at the photograph, it might mean something to them.
I'm still the photograph of the train station in was Russia.
Yeah, in Irkutsk.
That the one where it's at night and you see the steam between the two trains. Yeah. That's still that's like a magical photograph. And it's one of the great photographs I've seen. It's like that's just so compelling.
Yeah.
I said, well, you have so many other photographs, but that one it's almost mystical.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of those things that you're telling more. The sum of the parts is not as the same as the whole. You added something else to it.
Right, mystique. Well, that's the idea, is showing people what the world is like, and like understanding it's exciting and unknown.
Yeah.
And so all of these things combined like help, tell your story to other people.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So we're going to get to 18? Is that the 18th question?
I believe so.
What would you say, or would you say you were more freewheeling or structured? There's a lot of people that answered this question, have chosen to answer this question, and most people are, no, actually, it's been unpredictable. So what would you say?
I say through structure, one has the opportunity to become as freewheeling as they would like. But without some sort of structure, going with the flow can be messy. I mean, it's beautiful to watch someone that's really free and to speak with them or share experiences with them. But through this beauty is like this eternal wandering, and you're going down a path, but you're not really sure if you're going to go left today or right today or backwards or left again or two lefts or three rights, and you're just kind of walking.
It's like around circles too. You really want to get some direction. I think some people, they're happy that way, but I think they might be a little bit more happy if someone was to kick them in the seat of the pants and say, "Listen, go this way. Just try it. Take a step or two in one direction." And I think when a lot of people do that, they get a lot more satisfaction because they see some sort of result that makes them feel more of themselves or better about themselves. And you can always be spontaneous, as you said. The spontaneity, that's the juice of life.
Yeah, but you can't be free. Like earlier I said, you can't live your life so cautiously. There's a balance in all of these things
Absolutely.
that we're talking about.
Absolutely.
And, you wake up in the morning, you prep your whole day on the table so that you're ready for whatever happens to make that left turn.
You're prepared.
To make the three rights.
Yeah.
And it doesn't feel like you're going backwards. I mean, so we're talking about structure, right? Like, isn't the difference between us and robots our freewheeling will? And so, as I sit here saying, the prepared life is the analyzed life. But the more free we are, the more human we are at the same time.
You give yourself a lot of latitude to be who you are. But the idea is latitude. you're still going to come back to your center.
Right.
You know? And the center thrives. Most people thrive. And like I say, interesting people do something. You accomplish something, right? Mm-hmm. You've accomplished something. You've accomplished a few things. You can't accomplish something just on a whim, just chasing one after another. You have to, be able, and you have to know how well you're doing. If you do accomplish, there's a tremendous sense of satisfaction of accomplishment, and you can't do that without structure. Unless you're very, very lucky. I mean, one time people get hit by lightning. Right. It can happen. Yeah. But I mean, for by and large, for most of us, we have to put ourselves in some sort of structure. So this is where we are. Are we at 18 or at 19?
I don't know. I would say 18, 19. 18-ish.
We may have an extra bonus questions. Why don't we say 18? Which one would you like?
28.
Okay, what is your favorite color and why?
So do you know what an aura color is? I'm sure you do.
I've heard.
My favorite color is green. My aura color is blood red.
Okay.
Here, I'll explain it to you. Just 1 second. Blood red.
By the way, how do you like your little campsite?
I know, I was watching that.
You go to bed by that a lot. That's just a really nice thing to chill out and go to sleep too, put it on the TV.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. Blood red. I'm a prime color. I am simple yet complex. I am prime, yet help make others complex colors. I am the color of life and death. I am the color of caution and danger. My aura color is blood red.
Okay. Now, green, that's your favorite color?
Sure. But there's a difference,
So why is green your favorite color as opposed to your aura color?
It's the color I'm attracted to, but it's not the color that represents me.
It's funny. Green is my favorite color.
Oh, really?
And I find it to be very mystical. The deeper the green, the deeper it's so mystical. It's mythical almost.
So Irish, too.
Yeah. I got that little ring emerald in it, and I'm wearing a green shirt right now.
Yeah.
But I'm a thick Mick, and there's a lot of Irish in here. And I don't know if I could just point things out to you, you go, yeah, okay, you're Irish. But that's so. Let's go to question 19.
All right.
In what direction do you believe your life is headed?
I believe I'm going forward and a little bit to the left.
Okay.
So I'd say like northwest.
Mentally northwest or like physically? Your life is headed to the Pacific Northwest, or you're going to the Canadian outback?
So the path is forward. As I mentioned earlier, I just got married. It's a fresh 2 months.
Congratulations again.
And I feel like in the last couple of months, have gotten my life together in a lot of different ways. And every day I feel like I'm going forward in a number of different categories.
Did you think you was going to wind? Did you have any idea your life was going to be in the direction it seems to be going in? Like a year ago, 2 years ago, 5 years ago, did you imagine that you'd be sitting here talking to me doing something as alien just a few years ago as a podcast?
No. Like I said, I'm pretty simple. I never thought I was going to leave San Francisco. I thought I was going to die there.
Really?
Yeah, if it was up to me, I would have stayed forever, for sure.
So what made you move?
My now wife got a job in New York City, and so
that's right, a school teacher.
She got a job with Teach for America, and they placed her here. But she could have easily been placed in like Louisiana or Detroit, and then I stay. I don't go. But because she got placed in New York City, it was the only other animal that I would like to,
Wow.
try to take on.
Very cool. So you seem to be motivated by the direction your life is going in.
Yeah. And so like waking up and evolving has to do sometimes with her, sure. But has to do with me. And that's more important because you have to do it for yourself. And that's why like I go back to trust and like wanting people to trust me and have faith in me and rely on me. Because you forge your own path until two paths appear and you ask someone for a suggestion or a nudge.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you don't know you're asking, but you are.
Yeah.
And I want to help them evolve.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Yes, I agree. It's very interesting. So with that, we'll get to our 20th question, or the last question of the show.
What's the most popular question?
Well, let's see. There was a good few. There was one.
Is there a question that you would like to ask me as a closing question?
Oh, yes, this is a good one. Ever fake anything and either get away with it or just get caught, called out, and utterly destroyed? Details.
That's a good one. Every day, all the time. Destroyed maybe once.
Okay. Embarrassing.
You gotta fake it till you make it, But once you make it, you're not really faking it anymore.
Yeah. And sometimes you get enough bravado that keeps you going until you think like, well, I'm gonna get caught.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you don't get caught.
Yeah. And then you gotta take risks. And the bigger the risk, the bigger reward. But I feel like if you don't try, like if you don't ask, you'll never know if it was possible.
Yeah, you don't get if you don't ask. That's for sure.
You don't get if you don't ask.
Good. One more bonus question. I think this is the funny thing. This is everyone has some. Everybody has. What is the most grievous offense you have to deal with on a day-to-day basis from others? Gets under your skin. Rudeness, sloppiness, carelessness, something you have no room for in your mental landscape. The thing that irks you, someone not closing the door or repeatedly mispronouncing something, stuff like that.
So I'm relatively an optimist. I believe in people and that everyone's different. Everyone's good at different things, and everyone's better at some things than others, or everyone's worse than some things than others. And things like this I don't have like tics or that get under my skin like this. However, people who are insensitive and rude and unhuman. So earlier I had mentioned how the first thing I do with a stranger is try to break them down, bring them down to the human level, because it's New York City, it's Midtown, there's a lot of people in the clouds, And some people I can't bring down to the human level. So like they come off as power and respect. But the thing about respect is you got to give respect to gain it.
That's for sure. That's the truth.
You can't walk into every door and command respect, because then no one's going to respect you.
You command respect by giving it to others. And they'll give it back to you. They can't wait to give it back to you.
And so I guess that's the thing that would get under my skin the most.
Disrespectful or inconsideration of rudeness, what would you say? Or is it all the same thing?
When humans forget that they're talking to other humans. When you walk outside of your office and every door you walk in is your office. I guess, I don't know what the word I'm looking for is. Like being able, because inhumane is not the right word. I would say respect, I guess. Yeah, it's also like when you're around certain people, you're brought back to this place, but just because you're at a work dinner, or after work drinks.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't mean I work for you too.
That's correct.
Yeah. So something I heard the other day was, no, but haven't you ever heard that the customer is always right? I mean, yeah, I heard it.
Yeah. It's
true.
true.
Doesn't mean it's true.
I have a hard time accepting that is true. I think that there have been many, many instances in my life where the customer was completely wrong, and not only that, you're no longer welcome here. Because if this is how you treat human beings, you can just do that to someplace else. Well, that's fine. Here, we value and honor everyone, and that's not the way to do it.
Yeah, brother. Yeah, I hear what you're saying.
You know, you can't show simple respect and consideration for other people, then you don't get any.
Yeah.
You know, you get what you give. You know, and I've heard that from loads of people. Paul McCartney, very famously, says that all the time. People ask him, how successful he is, and and all the things that people laud him, and his anything he's done charitably. And he's a human being full. He's got his own faults and he's got his own foibles like anyone else. And his history. If you read some of the stories about him as a younger man, he wasn't the greatest person in the world. Mm-hmm. But he got married. That changes so many people. Suddenly you have a family. That changes you again. You mellow out. You do things, but you get what you give.
Yeah,
and I think that's a good rule to live by.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is definitely. I mean, we're all here together.
Yeah.
So we gotta take care of each other.
Okay, so now that we're at the end, do you have any closing thoughts you'd like to say or express before we sign off?
No, just wishing Tim the best of luck in this podcast series. Hoping my man he makes it over here, and hope he keeps believing in himself.
Well, thanks very much. Yeah. And with that, we'll do as the kiddies say. Peace out. See you next time, and peace out.